The Tennessee Titans could go through the draft or free agency to grab a quarterback, but I don't think they take any of the current options, and I'll explain why on today's edition of Locked On NFL.
The new Locked On NFL. The madman Tyler Rowland is your double shot of NFL espresso with the Locked On local experts on every major story. Get ready, Rowland is revving up. The new Locked On NFL starts now. Locked On Podcast Network. Your team every day.
Football fans, welcome in to the Locked On NFL podcast, bringing you a double dose of the NFL's biggest stories with help from our local experts that know your favorite teams like no one else. I am your host, the madman, Tyler Rowland, joined today by Locked On NFL expert, the mastermind, Ross Jackson. On today's episode, we are playing some quarterback matchmaker with free agency right around the corner. Which teams are going to be paired with which quarterbacks, free agency, rookies. We're going to talk Jets and Giants, Raiders and Titans, Steelers and Browns. Before we get into all of it, do want to thank you for making Locked On NFL your first listen and for being an everydayer here with us at the Locked On Podcast Network, where it is your team every day. Today's episode is brought to you by FanDuel. Right now, new FanDuel customers can get $150 in bonus bets if your first $5 bet wins. And Ross, speaking of making bets, a lot of teams around the NFL are going to be making bets on quarterbacks because we have a lot of teams with open quarterback positions and we have a lot of options that could fill them. So we start to play QB matchmaker, or what could happen, and the Tennessee Titans have the number one overall pick, and they also have enough cap space to go out and sign the top of the quarterback market, which is most likely Sam Darnold. But Ross, as someone with boots on the ground, I actually don't think that the Tennessee Titans do either of the options available, whether it be drafting a quarterback number one overall or signing any of the veteran free agents that are available right now. Number one, the Titans have already said, we've heard reports from local beat reporters that the Titans aren't in on Sam Darnold at top end money. $40 million a year would not be something they would be interested in. We've heard they're not interested in Aaron Rodgers. And after that, Russell Wilson, what kind of player is he? Does he fit in the Titans system? I don't think so. You look in the draft and the Titans could go quarterback conceivably, but I just think that the trade down to restock the roster is the most appealing way. So for the Tennessee Titans, Ross, I'm going to come out of the gates using my wild card pick here. I think the Titans actually end up with Kirk Cousins. I just don't think it happens until closer to the draft when Kirk Cousins can ensure that he's the starter on the team and not get, Michael Penix once again. So I'm using my wild card out of the gate to go with a non-option off the board and go with Kirk Cousins for the Tennessee Titans.
I really like that, Tyler. I think that's probably the one that honestly makes the most sense. If I'm Kirk Cousins, I'm probably not worried about signing anywhere until like closer to training camp. Maybe OTAs, maybe minis, like whatever. But like I'm not really worried about signing anywhere until, like you said, I know for sure that I'm the guy, especially after the experience that he had last year. And so I really like that. I think that he would be a really good fit for them as well. Somebody that has the ability to elevate some of the players that are there and just kind of help them get into their next era too. Cause I imagine Tennessee would probably be interested in the 2026 draft class, depending upon who comes out, who doesn't go back, all those other things, but opportunity to kind of invest there. And then, Kirk Cousins is on his way after that, either to his next stop or potentially, riding off in the sunset somewhere. I think that'd be a great selection for the Tennessee Titans. I went with Aaron Rodgers just because it was the only one that made sense for where it was.
I would prefer Rodgers personally, Ross, as someone who covers the Titans. I would prefer it to be Aaron Rodgers, but it's the same philosophy for both guys.
Exactly. Yeah, exactly. I was about to say, and you can cut and paste exactly what I just said about Kirk Cousins to Aaron Rodgers. You know what I mean? The only thing is that you probably have a little bit more control over the cost, which is a good thing for the Tennessee Titans. And so I think that would be the other thing. But you're talking about a 1-2 year situation, not a long-term situation for either one of these guys.
Yeah, and I think with Kirk Cousins, you're going to see something similar to Russell Wilson if he's released at any point, where he's getting so much money from Atlanta this year that he can take the veteran minimum. So that would maybe make him more appealing, because Rodgers probably still wants his $20 million a year to make it worth it, But he does have a home in Tennessee, so maybe that'd be more appealing to Rodgers. But again, I've heard locally that the Titans truly have no interest in Aaron Rodgers, which honestly is disappointing to me. I want to say this for the Titans. Last season was all about evaluating Will Levis. What do we have in Will Levis? This year is all about evaluating Brian Callahan. Is he the head coach to continue to lead us? So getting a guy like Kirk Cousins or Aaron Rodgers, while it probably doesn't make them a playoff contender because those guys are older in their careers, it still is a competent level of quarterback play that allows you to evaluate the head coach. And speaking of a head coach, Pete Carroll back in the NFL. Buddy. Speaking of older in their careers, Pete Carroll back in the NFL. What are they going to do at quarterback? Well, people have been whispering about a potential reunion, and your boy Q talked about that on Locked On Raiders.
We saw Patriot West, right? Are we going to all of a sudden see Vegas Seahawks? Teams and coaches, they roll with familiarity. We know that. Who and what they know, culture, all that good. So it's a strong possibility for sure. Maybe not all the guys that you mentioned, but I could definitely see, a Lockett, maybe a Metcalf. I don't know if Russell Wilson is going to be a fit with Pete Carroll. I'm not 100% sure, but I definitely believe you're going to see a little Seahawk influence on the team. Again, it's just natural. It happens all the time. You saw that with the coaching staff. Like Pete Carroll said when he had his introductory press conference, I want on my staff guys that are familiar with me, that have worked with me. I want guys that haven't worked with me, and I want guys from the Raiders organization, right? Some of the great coaches that they currently have. So I look at that, and I look at the way that they're going to build the roster. Guys that have worked with Pete Carroll, guys that haven't worked with Pete Carroll, and current guys that are already on the Raiders roster. I think they're going to put it together exactly like that.
Well, he's not the only one who sees a Seattle reunion there in Vegas. Ross, I know your quarterback matchmaker for the Raiders, Russell Wilson.
Yep, that's an easy one for me. I think Pete Carroll ain't got time to play, man. So go ahead and grab like a guy that you already have that familiarity with and everything like that. And I'll tell you what, part of my wild card was not only Russell Wilson to the Raiders, but Shedeur Sanders to the Raiders as well. Give Shedeur a great influence and a good, mentor in Russell Wilson. While Russell Wilson's in a comfortable scenario working with his former head coach and Pete Carroll, I assume that relationship is still okay. Let Russ cook and then let Shedeur cook. I think that it works great in terms of getting both of those guys over in Las Vegas. So you're not asking so much out of Shedeur Sanders from the very beginning, and you give him somebody to work with ahead of him.
Yeah, I'm 100% on board for that path with a veteran, but I'm going to go with the Raiders going a different direction because I think at Pete Carroll's age, he may not see developing a quarterback as something he has time to do. And I know Shedeur Sanders wouldn't take as much development. He's pretty ready to play in general, but overall the concept of a rookie quarterback, I don't know if that's what Pete Carroll will want to do, and they have holes on their roster and they want to compete right now. So I agree with you. I think that a veteran does make sense no matter what they do, but I think that they're going to be the team that pays Sam Darnold. I think that Pete Carroll will want that established quarterback. We don't have to look for it next year. Like, I got this guy. Russell Wilson, when he won his Super Bowl, was good. He was a good player, but it's almost like the Tom Brady, Randy Moss era where it's like the years where Russell Wilson was statistically the best were also the years that he won the least, considering his Seattle tenure. Like, he was more of a game manager when they were winning Super Bowls because the team was so good. I think you can get that with you can get that with Sam Darnold, and I think Pete Carroll could take that level of quarterback and make a much more competitive team. Now, I think with that, they would also draft somebody, but they would take somebody who needs a ton of development with high-end tools who could maybe be your next Russell Wilson. Jalen Milroe out of Alabama.
Perhaps. Yeah.
He feels like a Raider to me. I think he'd be awesome as a Raider. And Sam Darnold plays for 2 years. You develop Milroe in the background, and then he's ready to go in year 3 and can play that early career Russell Wilson style. So maybe Wilson and Milroe would be a very good pairing for them. But I went with Darnold on this one. But we're going to move to the other side of the country. There is a battle going down between the New York Jets and the Pittsburgh Steelers for Justin Fields. Today's episode is brought to you by FanDuel. When the game tips off, the NBA action is just getting started, and there's no better place to get in on it than FanDuel, America's #1 sportsbook. With FanDuel, you can place live bets throughout the game, so even if you miss the opening tip-off or you want to bet on a fourth quarter comeback, you can stay in the action. And if you're looking for a bigger payout, you can even combine your live bets into a same-game parlay. I love using FanDuel's live betting feature because it makes every moment of the game exciting, whether I'm backing my team for a late game rally, picking a player to hit a clutch 3, Luka Doncic, baby, let's go. I never feel like I missed my chance. Plus, the app is easy to use, and when you win, you get paid instantly. Right now, new FanDuel customers can get $150 in bonus bets if your first $5 bet wins. Just visit FanDuel.com to join today. That's FanDuel.com for your shot at $150 in bonus bets. Make every moment more with FanDuel, the official sports betting partner of the NBA. All right, Ross, let's continue today's edition of the Locked On NFL podcast. All right, so both of us had a veteran for the Titans. You went with Aaron Rodgers, which I love personally. With Kirk Cousins as my wild card selection in today's quarterback matchmaker game. We then went to the Raiders. I'm going with Sam Darnold and a rookie. You went with Wilson and a rookie. That makes a ton of sense as well. But moving forward, again, there is a battle going down right now between the Jets and the Steelers for Justin Fields. Now, me personally, I like Justin Fields with the New York Jets. And my guy, John on Jets, talked about that possibility.
It seems like there's buzz that's building around Justin Fields potentially being the quarterback for the Jets in 2025. We never know for sure like how these offseason rumors pan out, but when you talk about national reporters, when you talk about local reporters with the Jets, when you talk about local reporters with the Steelers who cover Fields, who probably developed a relationship with him, it seems like there's a lot of buzz building around a potential Jets Justin Fields match. And it's logical. Jets need a quarterback. Fields is looking for a starting job. Fields may not find another team willing to give him a starting role. The Jets may struggle to find a quarterback who's better than Fields. I mean, I think it would be a logical fit at this point in time. And one of the things I mentioned on the show the other day, if you missed it, is that if you look across the NFL, increasingly what you're seeing are guys who were early round picks and failed with their original team going somewhere else and kind of putting it together.
I actually agree with John. That's why I put Fields with the Jets. I think it's Steelers or Jets at the end of the day. And if you're the Jets, you're at pick number 7, probably don't want to trade up what it would cost to go get one of the rookie quarterbacks. How great are the veterans? You're probably not bringing Sam Darnold back to the New York Jets. He won't want to do – that's not happening.
He's seeing ghosts, man.
You can't go back to, literally seeing ghosts with the Jets of his past. But Rodgers, obviously, they disconnected from him, and he's one of the only true veteran options. Russell Wilson is kind of like Aaron Rodgers that goes to church. So, I guess at that point, I think that Justin Fields, I think I see a Mac Jones in a guy that's this same kind of vein as Justin Fields, a failed high pick. To me, that's much more exciting for the Jets. And I think the Jets are willing to pay more than the Steelers for Justin Fields because at the end of the day, they don't know what they might have in Justin Fields. And the Steelers are like, we like Fields, but come on, it's Justin Fields. You know what I mean? But the Jets are like, wait, we don't know about Justin Fields. We'll take a shot. So that's why I ultimately picked him for the Jets.
Yeah, I like that pick. I'm with you. I think it's one of those two teams. But when it comes to me for the Jets, I don't go Justin Fields. I go with your wild card in Kirk Cousins. I feel like Kirk Cousins to the Jets would be such a good fit for them. If he's not going to be in Atlanta, I don't think you really want to. I don't care how much you're being paid. If you're Kirk Cousins, you don't want to be a backup, man. You want to go somewhere where you're going to be able to make a difference, right? And so with the number 7 overall pick, the opportunity for the Jets to be able to figure out a way to maybe build some more around the team. And then for Kirk Cousins, you've got some pretty good talent over there on that offense. You have a Breece Hall run game. You have a pretty solid blocking game when it comes to the offensive line, especially the way that Aaron Glenn's going to want to build that for his team. They're going to have that defense that's got some really good pieces as well. So for a guy like Kirk Cousins to have a defense that gets him the ball back and keeps points off the board, you're not asked to lift a bunch there. And all of a sudden you got Garrett Wilson you get to throw to on a weekly basis. I think it's a solid situation for him. So that's my wild card is I've got Kirk Cousins there.
And I want to point out that the Detroit Lions passing game coordinator, Tanner Edstrand, is the new offensive coordinator for the Jets, and he's been working with Jared Goff there in that Detroit Lions. And Goff obviously has more athletic pop than Kirk Cousins does.
Sure.
At this point, that's always fair. Jared Goff is a more physically talented player. People don't give Jared Goff enough credit for how much of a howitzer he has. He has a freaking arm. He's got a cannon. So I think there are differences, but I think their style of play is similar enough where it could be an easy transition for Kirk Cousins. I do like that one. Man, Kirk Cousins is truly the wild card here. All signs would make you think that he's going to be available. Like you said, he's not going to want to be a backup. The Falcons can't pay him the money that he's set to get to be a backup. None of it makes sense, but they're holding firm right now, maybe hoping they can get some sort of trade compensation when people miss out in the draft. I don't know. It's an interesting situation to watch, and I'm sure it'll unfold more later in the offseason. But if Justin Fields goes to the Jets, then who goes to the Pittsburgh Steelers? So for that question, obviously, since I had the Jets getting Justin Fields, I'll go to my answer, and I'll go Aaron Rodgers. And I think that Aaron Rodgers' personality worries people. I have continued to say, I will continue to say, I think this version of Aaron Rodgers that we get this year will be a more relaxed Aaron Rodgers. He won't want control. He won't want all his guys to get signed. He won't want to run the offense. He'll simply want to be in the passenger seat and get to play football and enjoy being with the guys. And I think the only team that could reasonably take on the personality of Aaron Rodgers because of a strong head coach in Mike Tomlin, and then also give Aaron Rodgers a realistic opportunity to win. If you get a good Aaron Rodgers season, not even MVP, but a good Aaron Rodgers season, you bring in Devontae Adams with him, you add that to George Pickens, you take the resources that you have in the draft and free agency and add to the offensive line, that we already know that the Steelers defense can be counted on. I know that they didn't have their best end of the season, but the offense started to crater, and I think it impacted the defense. I trust the Steelers' defense and the talent they have. I think that combination makes sense. So if Fields goes to the Jets, I think a great pivot for the Steelers would be to go to Aaron Rodgers. And I think it would also be very interesting to see Aaron Rodgers, Mike Tomlin, and that dynamic. But I think it would work out better than people will give it credit for. So I'll go Fields to the Jets, Rodgers to the Steelers.
Like that. Yeah, man. I don't think there's a better personality manager in the NFL at head coach than Mike Tomlin. Mike Vrabel's up there too, but Mike Tomlin's ability to be able to manage the personalities that have been in Pittsburgh and have gone elsewhere to be, to explode and all these other things. The track record is proven. And I think that if you're Aaron Rodgers, you know that you're showing up in Pittsburgh in that situation and that you're not going to get the opportunity to run the show. Exactly.
Imagine if they get Jackson Dart too. You know what I mean?
Yeah,
the Steelers definitely should take a quarterback. That would be, and for Rodgers to repair his image and be that mentor that maybe people don't think that he's willing to be, it would just be perfect.
Yeah, it would be a good opportunity for a little bit of a rebrand, maybe even a much needed rebrand for Aaron Rodgers for sure.
For his media career.
Yeah, right. I've got good point. I've got the Steelers sticking with Justin Fields. It makes sense. He looks pretty solid with them. I think you're right too. The defense can be trusted, which I think would help what Justin Fields would be able to do, and the way that he grew behind Russell Wilson and even before Russell Wilson at one point is good. I think a lot of people kind of think, well, Justin Fields wouldn't want to go back to Pittsburgh because they benched him for Russell Wilson. And I get that, but Mike Tomlin was so clear about what the path forward was there, even publicly, what was going to happen with that situation. I don't think Justin Fields had the expectation that was dismantled by going to Russell Wilson. I think you get it when you're in the NFL. You understand the business of all of it. And again, they were very transparent about what that was going to be. So I think that marriage is there. I think the relationship's there. And Pittsburgh 21st in the NFL draft in the first round. They're not going to be in a position to ensure that they get that quarterback. So go with the guy that's in the building and then see what you're able to do moving forward.
And just saying this now, Pittsburgh looks like a prime trade back option to me. If they're able to trade back in the draft before that secondary offensive tackle run starts to hit, and then they can take a quarterback after they traded back and have those additional picks in their back pocket. I think that would make a lot. I think there's going to be a ton of activity at the end of the first round, start of the second round with, Jalen Milroe, Quinn Ewers.
Want to get those fifth-year options if you can, all that kind of stuff.
100 Jackson Dart again. Yeah, I think there will be a lot of activity there. So speaking of that, these rookie quarterbacks, they need a home. I'm going to go over two teams that I think are going to end up with rookie quarterbacks as we continue playing Quarterback Matchmaker as a free agency preview here on Locked On NFL. All right, Ross, let's cap off today's edition of Locked On NFL. Again, playing a little quarterback matchmaker. We talked about the Titans. We talked about the Raiders. We talked about the Jets. We talked about the Steelers. We'll recap all of our selections here at the end, but making our way to the two teams that I personally think are most likely to end up with rookie quarterbacks. And we will start with the New York Jets. And I think that by the time the draft comes around, the Giants will have the number one pick. I believe the smoke. I believe there's fire. It makes sense for the Titans. It makes sense for the Giants. Regardless of what the Giants do. I mean, the Giants have killed their leverage. They've come out and said multiple ways in multiple reports that they want to draft a quarterback and get a veteran. And that, John Mara is mandating that they get the quarterback of the future. So with that in mind, I think that the Giants could be a team that does exactly what we're hearing. Get a veteran, draft a rookie. So I am picking for the Giants a trade up to number one with Cam Ward and then Russell Wilson.
Nice.
To the Giants.
Sierra finally gets to New York, baby. It's what she's always wanted.
Absolutely. They finally made it up the Mortal Kombat ladder to the final stop. But my reasoning for that is they were interested in Russell Wilson last year. And the GOAT, Patricia Traina from Locked On Giants, reminded us of that.
Russell Wilson, who was with the Pittsburgh Steelers last year, as everybody knows, he had a cup of coffee with the Giants last offseason. And because the Giants weren't willing to say to him, okay, yeah, we're going to have a quarterback competition between you and Daniel Jones when Daniel is healthy, Russell Wilson basically didn't want any part of that. He wanted an opportunity to have a chance to start. The Giants weren't willing to give that to him, so he moved on. Now, I could very easily see, if the Steelers don't retain Russell Wilson, and again, there's a report that they prefer Justin Fields over Wilson, I could see the Giants revisiting with him. I am not so sure, though, that Russell Wilson is the best fit for the Giants.
Listen, I'm not sure it's the best fit either, but think about, and it could be Aaron Rodgers. That's, what we've talked about. It could be Aaron Rodgers in that vet role right there. But if you're Brian Daboll and Joe Shane and you have to save your job, you go with Russell Wilson. You say, we're going to sit the rookie and let him learn. That's what's been helpful to a lot of rookies. Then if you're doing bad in the middle of the season, you could say, hey, look, we were trying to groom the rookie. We're trying to get him ready to go, put him in. And the rookie goes on a little bit of a run. You could win 5 or 6 games, but if the rookie looks good at the end of the year, you'd be like, look, we're building something. We're on our way. We're getting the best out of this guy. And if not, and Russell Wilson wins some games, then you're good. If both guys just lose and look terrible, then yeah, you're fired. But that's on the table anyway. So it gives them a route where the Giants don't necessarily have to have a winning record for it to be a winning season and to keep their job. So I like the idea of getting Cam Ward and then bringing in Russell Wilson as a veteran for him to learn from and someone who they've already had interest in.
Yeah, I like that too. I also just how many misses have the Giants had because they believed way too much in Daniel Jones? Like, my goodness,
man.
To tell Russell
all
Wilson,
of the dominoes that fell because
right,
he's not good enough.
Right. To tell Russell Wilson, no, there's not going to be a competition. You're going to be Daniel Jones's backup.
And
he's cut. He's cut. Please. Come on.
Yeah.
So, look, the pairing that I went with here actually was Sam Darnold. I think that the Giants are in a position to be able to get him there. There's a fun reclamation project for Sam Darnold to go back to New York / go back to New Jersey.
The varsity team.
Yeah, be able to say, look at me now. You know what I mean?
Right,
especially after having so much success over in Minnesota. New York's got the space to be able to get it done. I also don't know if Sam Darnold gets paid as much as people maybe expect him to get
Yeah.
paid in real money, right? Like the APY
Right.
might be whatever, but in guarantees and stuff like that, I think it could be workable for New York. And then I like the idea of, similar to your idea, pairing him with a rookie that ends up being there. I don't know if it's Cam Ward, but let's say that they decide not to trade up in the first round to grab a quarterback, but they love a guy like Kyle McCord, want to keep him in New York, bring him down from Syracuse, something like that, like a really good pairing of two, like a veteran quarterback and a rookie quarterback that could potentially end up benefiting from one another. So I got Sam Darnold over there for the Giants, if they can work the contract out in a way that makes sense for them.
And it seems like that's going to be the case. And I personally don't think Minnesota wants him back. I think they're trying to help him get more money. I think Minnesota is willing to leak there because it's been all over the place. Minnesota might want him back. Minnesota might want him back.
It's too loud.
Exactly. It's too loud. Minnesota's trying to help him get more money by being involved. I think favors like that are done in the NFL all the time. Team says, oh, I'm interested, when they know they really aren't, to do a favor to the agent for a different client, knowing it can pay. I mean, come on, guys. We're all human. A lot of us are adults listening to this. You know how the world works. It's a give and take. So I agree with you there. And if they do that with Sam Darnold, then they don't have to mortgage their future. If they hit with Sam Darnold, then awesome. You know what I mean? They didn't give up those draft picks to move up to number 1. They didn't do anything. If they go with the QB route and it busts, not only did it bust on them and they're fired, but now the Giants are screwed too because they gave up all that draft capital, probably a couple second-round picks, maybe even a future first, whatever it would end up being. So that's definitely a safer route from an organizational standpoint to go. So I do get that. And you pair him with, like you said, a Jackson Dart, a Quinn Ewers, a Jalen Milroe, a Will Howard, a Kyle McCord. Like,
Will Howard's
so many options. On day 2, I think Will Howard would be a great fit with Brian Daboll. He's like a Dollar General Josh Allen. You know what I mean? Like, I think that would be a pretty good fit for the Giants and what Daboll likes to do. So that does make a lot of sense. And the thing is, all of these paths that we're talking about for these teams make sense in some way. So we'll finish with the final team, and that's the New York Browns the Cleveland Browns. And for me, this is where my final rookie went. I do have Shedeur Sanders going to the Cleveland Browns. I think it is a bit dangerous because they play in the elements, and Shedeur Sanders clearly does not have one of the strongest arms. I think he's going to come in the NFL right away as a bottom 5 quarterback in arm strength and in velocity. He makes up for it with his ball placement, his anticipation. He does some of the mental stuff. He's got to get better at drifting in the pocket. But I think that kind of play action, Kevin Stefanski offense would be good for him to be able to read the field and have time to see it and use that accuracy. And I also think that the Browns right now are in the midst of building or looking to build a new stadium. And the rumor is they want to be indoors with that new stadium. That's what all of these business owners want to do. They want indoor stadiums so they can host more events year round to make more money. It's greed at the end of the day. But I think if the Browns do eventually go inside, then it's way less of a concern that Shedeur Sanders doesn't have the strongest arm. And I think that's a pairing there. And they could maybe bring in I think Jacoby Brissett and Shedeur Sanders would be a great pairing for the Browns going forward, with Deshaun Watson clearly out of the picture, even after another insane restructure that they did to save themselves money. But yeah, I'm going with Shedeur Sanders to the Browns. I think they need that personality. And I got to give a shout out to Mary Kay Cabot, who writes for the Cleveland Browns. She's a legend. She had a line in a recent article about Shedeur Sanders because he was being called brash, uninterested, stuff like that. She said one man's brash is another man's treasure. And that is one of the best lines I've ever heard. Shedeur Sanders, the Browns need a quarterback with that swagger to remove the stink of the Deshaun Watson. So I'll go with that.
Yeah, I hate reports that are like, oh, the potential first quarterback to go in the draft is confident. Get out of my face. I hope so. You know what I mean? Yes, good.
More confident than us mere mortals.
Right. Yeah, he better be. Like, gosh, it would be more concerning if he wasn't. I love that. I think that's good. I go with the other rookie. This is where I've got Cam Ward going. I know Cam Ward to the Cleveland Browns is like chalk at this point. I get that. But like, I just think that he played at Washington State. He's played in the elements before. He's played in the Pac-12. He fits there. And I think that he's one of those guys that does have the arm strength to be able to combat all those other things. And honestly, what I would do with Cam Ward is draft Cam Ward and bring Jameis Winston back. I'd love for him to have a personality like Jameis Winston around him. I would even say that for Shedeur Sanders as well. Just in terms of like, hey, here's how to love all of this, right? Here's how to take all this in, how to appreciate all this. And also like, Jameis has some experience being the first quarterback off the board and things not necessarily panning out. Here's how you manage this. Here's how you navigate this situation. I think that he would be a great relationship builder for a young quarterback. So I very similar approach, Tyler, but just the other name, Cam Ward. Man,
let me just say, I love redemption. And like Jameis Winston had his issues off the field and, on the field too with a 30-30 season. But the way that he's turned his image from like, he gets in trouble, knucklehead kind of guy to lovable, almost like locker room preacher, man. I just love it. I love Jameis Winston. I hope he's in the booth and on television and involved in our football lives until I die. Like, I love me some Jameis Winston. So to recap everything. Ross went Giants, Sam Darnold, Steelers, Justin Fields, Titans, Aaron Rodgers, Raiders, Russell Wilson, and Shedeur Sanders, Browns, Cam Ward, in a wild card. The Jets will get Kirk Cousins. For me, I went Titans with my wild card as Kirk Cousins. I went Giants to get Cam Ward and Russell Wilson together, the Raiders to get Sam Darnold, the Browns to get Shedeur Sanders, and then the Jets to get Justin Fields. And the Giants, I said Cam Ward and Russell Wilson. I already said that. And the Steelers to get Aaron Rodgers and a little Jackson Dart mixed in there. So quarterback matchmaker, free agency starts on Monday. Cannot wait to break it all down with you guys. Make sure that you get subscribed, stay subscribed to Locked On NFL. That's going to do it for us today, though. I am your host, the Madman Tyler Rowland, with the mastermind, Ross Jackson. Thanks for tuning in, and stay safe out there.